Automation failing and just shutting off is the best case scenario. Sometimes it's worse than that. The automation will fight against the human being. This is the unfortunate thing that happened in the Boeing 737 accident, okay, where the automation was fighting against the pilots. And in the long run, the pilots could not win and the aircraft crashed. 2 of them. 346 people died because of automation. Sometimes I think we are waiting for Terminator to come and start killing human beings before we think machines can kill us. But they're already killing us. Okay? So automation is good, but it is not all in all. Closer to Earth, we have the Tesla models also that have killed some people. So just like Christine from Stephen King's book, if you've read that book, you understand what I'm talking about, the Tesla car. But don't get me wrong, I am all for automation. Accra has a very serious traffic problem. And since I started driving automatic cars, my left leg has been very grateful. Okay, no half clutch issues. So that is with automation. So we cannot live without automation, and we need automation as well. So what do? We need to have a hybrid system now. That's the best we can do. We have a hybrid system where we have the human interacting with automation and vice versa. And the human cannot communicate with the automation telepathically. So we have to interact physically. And there are 7 issues that I want to bring to your attention, which I term as the 7 deadly sins of automation. We know that an accident happens because of a series of actions. So anytime you're able to interfere with this chain, we may be able to prevent an accident from happening. So the 7 issues, or the 7 deadly sins, are loss of system awareness, poor interface design, overreliance, systemic decision errors, automation intimidation, distrust, and mood confusion. I'll give you some examples that will illustrate each of these points. But whilst I'm giving you the examples, I would like you to also think of examples that you've come across in your industry, in your personal experience, your life, and put it down in the chat or on our Facebook page, WhatsApp, or YouTube when we upload this video. You can also join the Ghana Safety Professionals. It's a Facebook group. We can have discussions over there as well, the Ghana Safety Professionals. So let's go ahead. So the first one is the loss of system awareness. This happens when the human operator is unaware of the capabilities and limitations of the automated system. Sometimes someone is very well trained on one system and is migrated onto a similar system, but it is not the same system. They develop the erroneous assumption that the second system behaves in a similar way to the first. We have a typical example of drones. There are some drones that pick their home point automatically, so that in a case where the drone and the controller lose communication, the drone will automatically fly to its home point. There are some other drones that you need to put in the home point manually into the system. So we've had a situation where the drone lost communication with the controller, and that drone, unfortunately, you had to put in the home point manually. And since the manufacturer put the home point at the manufacturing base, when the drone lost communication, it started flying towards his home base in China. So of course, we never found the drone because it never got to the manufacturing base. Okay. Some politician will say "Esijo." Okay, the drone ran away from the controller. So that is what happens in loss of system awareness. And this is a possibility whenever you're using automation. So we need to guard against this. The other issue is poor interface design. Okay. In our modern technology, as I said, we communicate and the machines also communicate with us via controls and inputs and screens. This has led to a situation where sometimes we do not get enough information to make a decision, or sometimes we are overwhelmed with decisions. So, Turkish Airlines, that was a typical example that happened where the aircraft crashed because the radio altimeter that it measures the distance to the ground from the aircraft failed. And when it fails, it doesn't give information to the pilots. But then it causes the auto throttle, the automatic, acceleration, to enter a different mode, which slows the aircraft down. But then the crew failed to realize this until they received a low speed warning system. By then, it was too late when they got the low speed warning system and the aircraft crashed. So sometimes we do not get enough information from automation to make a decision. So that is a pitfall of automation as well. Then we have over-reliance. This picture speaks for itself. Okay. When we over-rely on automation, because the automation has served us so well in the past, we think that there's no need to watch it again, and we leave it to do whatever it wants to do. And sometimes the outcome is not good. In France, January 2007, there was a chemical spill from a chemical plant because they ruptured the vent pipe when they were transferring the liquid. They had a high pressure warning, but when you get a high pressure warning, the system is supposed to automatically shut down. In this case, the system didn't automatically shut down. And because they assume that once we have a high pressure warning, the system should shut down. And once it doesn't shut down, then it means we don't have a high pressure warning. So they let it run. And of course, there was a rupture, and then there was a leak of the chemical into the environment. So that is over-reliance on automation can lead you to. Then we have systematic decision errors. Sometimes in the heat of the moment, we have aids that help us to make decisions because of stresses that we are facing, time stresses, etc. So we have aids that help us in making decisions. In an aircraft, for example, we have the traffic collision and avoidance system, TCAS, that helps pilots that are coming into contact to take evasive actions. So the system is installed on both aircraft. So they talk to each other. So the system will tell one aircraft to go up and tell the other aircraft to descend so that they avoid collision. But unfortunately, in this case of over Germany, a DHL cargo flight and a Russian passenger flight collided mid-air. The traffic controller, who is on ground, gave an opposite direction to what the TCAS, the traffic collision system, was given to the pilot on board the Russian aircraft. So in this case, the pilot had only two choices, or one choice per se. Either he listens to the controller or he listens to his equipment. The Russian pilot decided to follow the instructions of the controller. So he went in the opposite direction to what the equipment was telling him. And unfortunately, the other pilot decided to go along with his equipment. So they ended up going down together and were involved in a collision. So some of these things, when they happen, the human is now left with a choice. Do I accept the recommendation of the machine or I ignore the machine? And then we have automation intimidation, where the human remains reluctant to interfere with automation process, despite evidence that the machine is malfunctioning. Why would such a thing? Because sometimes the people are not really trained properly. And you say, oh, how can this be possible? But it happens. We have Logan International Airport. We had an accident that happened in the 1980s because they were coming down with the auto throttle, the one that controls the acceleration automatically, and they were overspeeding. The pilots realized that the aircraft was overspeeding, but because it was under the control of automation, they decided not to interfere with that, and the aircraft landed too hard on the ground, separated into a couple of parts, and 2 passengers died from that accident. So intimidation is a real example. And if you have examples that you've come across, please share with us, as I indicated. Then we have distrust. Sometimes we don't trust the automation because what we think should happen is not happening. Automation is giving us a different indication from what we are expecting. And normally it happens, when it happens after a couple of times, we tend to ignore the automation, or we can become too fixated on the automation, and then we ignore other cues that are coming in. This caused an accident in the Conrail train accident in Baltimore. Okay, the drivers were getting visual and auditory signals in the train cabin that they were overspeeding, but I think the overspeeding system they didn't trust the system, so they ignored it and they went off their rails, and that caused an accident. And then we have mode confusion and misapplication. That is the final sin out of the 7 deadly sins. Okay. Because automation is improving daily, it gives us many possibilities, and these possibilities come in different modes and systems. And sometimes we get confused of which mode we are in at a particular moment. This was the cause of an accident, a very terrible one, where the US shot down an Iranian passenger aircraft during the Iran-Iraq War in 1988. Okay. It happened because the person behind the system, the missile system, did not understand what mode the system was operating in and did a miscalculation and assumed that a passenger aircraft was a military target, and they shot it out of the sky. So we have tragic examples of how automation, which is there to help us, can fail us. So in conclusion, what will I say? You notice that these 7 sins do not show up individually. Okay, as I keep on saying, accidents happen because of a chain of events, and these 7 sins, you notice that sometimes they happen in pairs, one after the other. Mode confusion can easily happen due to poor interface design and other things. But automation is here to stay. There's nothing we can do about it. There's this saying that the factory of the future will have only 2 employees, a man and a dog. The man will be there to feed the dog, and the dog will be there to prevent the man from touching the controls. So, but until then, we are the last line of defense as human beings. And everything, we can make a decision in the process to prevent an accident from happening. Thank you very much for your attention. You can still send in your comments, your questions through our Facebook, our Instagram, our WhatsApp channels. And let's keep the engagement going. As we said, our social corporate responsibility, or corporate social responsibility, is to meet the youth at their level before they are let out into the world and build a sense of safety culture in them. As you know, statistics show that the youth suffer the most when it comes to accidents on the road. The youth are the most involved in accidents. If you want to donate in kind as well, we'll be very grateful. We'll meet you at the next lecture. Keep on monitoring the social platforms, and you'll get the information over there. Join the Ghana Safety Professionals as well on our Facebook page. and we'll keep the engagement going. Thank you very much. Till we meet again, be safe.